Hi, welcome to the Business Casual Yogi video series, talking about the book, The Business Casual Yogi, by me, Vish Chatterjee, the main author on the book. And today we're going to talk about chapter 3, which is basically understanding our purpose and why we are here. So chapter 3 is titled, Why Are We Here? The Aims of Life. And the material in this chapter was actually very interesting for me to study. This is material that I hadn't come across in many of my yoga studies or even my Vedic philosophy studies. I actually came across it when I was going deeper into the Jyotish system, which is the system of Vedic astrology. It's sort of a component of the Vedic tradition that is parallel to the Ayurveda tradition and the yoga tradition. And, astrology was something I was very uncomfortable with. It seemed very woo-woo and out there for me. It just seemed like a kind of a made-up thing. I'd read a horoscope and it didn't make any sense to me, in a newspaper. But as I got deeper into studying yoga and Ayurveda, I found that it was actually a very scientific methodology on the Vedic side of things versus Western astrology. And by looking, to using these philosophies and the techniques within this more scientific, mathematically accurate approach, I was able to get some really interesting insights both into myself and into clients. So I want to get into details of what that entails, but one thing about the Jyotish tradition is it allowed me to go deeper into my studies of the Vedic tradition. And I found in a lot of these Jyotish books descriptions of this philosophy of living and philosophy of life and how to assess that in somebody that I hadn't found anywhere else. And so this idea of these four purusharthas, the four Vedic goals of life, I thought were very well explained in some of these texts that I was studying, and that's what I shared in this book. So these four aims of life don't usually show up in other books on yoga. And the reason I also felt very compelled to include them was when I was working with various executive clients. So, C-level, C-suite executives in very big companies that you've all heard of, as well as working with small business owners. I found that when there was an imbalance in their life, when I talked about these four aims of life and how they're balanced, so the idea of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, Dharma being your duties in life, purpose, Artha being your earning of income and prosperity, Kama having fun in life, and Moksha is spiritual freedom. When I talked about these four aims and how to balance them and how you can recognize that imbalance both in yourself and in colleagues and in others, I noticed pretty consistently a massive light bulb would go off in the mind of my client. And by understanding how to balance these four aims, they would have remarkable shifts in their life and start, either earning more money if they weren't earning more money, or start spending more time with their family if they weren't, or take care of their health better, or even engage in more of a spiritual practice, improve their overall spiritual intelligence, which ended up improving their business overall. So I found these four aims of life and understanding them, the philosophy behind them, to be very powerful, transformative framework for my clients, and therefore I brought it pretty early on in the book. And so we talk about these four aims, and as we get into one of the aims, Dharma specifically, Dharma is one of those things that people sort of reduce down to just life purpose. The Buddhist tradition might say Dharma is the right law or the law of everything. People that are studying yoga might say Dharma is my life purpose, but it's actually much, much more complicated. So it's a massive word, and as I mentioned before, the average Sanskrit word takes 20, 30 words to try to explain. But the idea of Dharma is much more complicated, much more complex. And I was struggling how to define it, because when I looked in various books and during my research, the definition is too simplistic. And so, of course, I consulted with Yoga Rishi Vishwaketu, the co-collaborator on this book, and him having studied the concept of Dharma from a very young age, in a traditional forest school setting, yoga school setting in the jungle, as well as in a PhD level, in an academic setting. He, educated me. I actually learned a lot from him on the conversation around this chapter about what is Dharma. And so I was able to take his, this sort of very deep, insightful body of knowledge and teaching that he has, and distill it down to something very appropriate for an audience like yourself, the business audience, the normal working person audience. And so when I describe Dharma in this book and the different sort of subsets of Dharma, I think it's a very unique explanation and unique finding and unique research in the yoga world, let alone in the business world. So as you read through this, you'll see that I'm sharing a lot of the deeper things that Vishwaketu shares. And one of the things that really was quite enlightening for me myself was I always thought you had to balance these four aims. You had to, make sure you honor your life purpose and your calling and take care of your health, take care of your family, but you also have to, take care of earning and having enough financial support for all the things that you want to do in life, and also have fun. And then I thought you had to engage in a regular spiritual practice. But what Vishwa explained is if you do the first three, if you just do Dharma, Artha, and Kama, honoring your life purpose, making a decent earning, and having fun in life, the spirituality just sort of comes along automatically for the ride. There's no additional effort necessary. So that I thought it was really insightful that you don't have to force it necessarily. It'll just come as a byproduct of living a balanced life. And then within this chapter, I also found some really interesting, I shared some interesting stories about people that I've come across in my life that clearly were out of balance, and how had they had that balance would have probably achieved a lot better outcome in their goals and in their life. I also shared in here some of the things that I've come across in my own life where I myself was out of balance in some areas, and understanding how these different areas. I was very money focused for a long time in my career. I just cared about getting a promotion and rising up the ranks in corporate America. So I was very Artha focused, all about earning an income. And I did it to the detriment of everything else in my life. My spiritual progress or spiritual studies weren't that deep. I was very imbalanced. I didn't spend a lot of time with my family. I just worked and because I wanted to make more money and rise up the corporate ranks. And so I was very out of balance. And I was able to see now, had I understood these four aims and balanced them better earlier in my life, I might have had a very different health outcome and spiritual outcome and happiness outcome. I'm glad I found them now, and so my life feels much more balanced these days. And I also know people in the yoga world. I know many yogis who are, brilliant teachers. They, clearly deep in their spiritual path. They're honoring their life purpose, but they don't make any money, and they're just struggling for survival. And I've had quite a few of them reach out to me in recent times saying, how do I balance this? How do I understand this? This is my life work, this is my life purpose, but I can't make money doing it. And, that's a learning opportunity right there. It's, yes, honoring our inner calling and honoring our gifts and talents are important, but we also have to have a way to earn money. And it's not always that those line up for us. We're not also lucky to do what we love and earn money doing that. In some cases, we have to do something else that pays the bills and something else that honors our inner calling. And as you know, I'm also in a leadership role in my local health district. I'm on the board of directors of the Beach Cities Health District, and we talk a lot about well-being and how to find happiness. And one of the tenets of living a happier, longer life, which we found through research, is having a very clear sense of purpose and honoring that. And I do believe that when we talk about well-being and health, yes, you have to take care of your body. You have to, do your physical exercise. Yes, you have to take care of your mind and do stress relieving activities for your mind. But you also, as part of well-being, have to honor your inner spirit. And that inner spirit is maintained in a healthy way when you honor the spirit's calling. And so knowing what is your life purpose, honoring what is your life purpose, and indulging on that in a regular basis, I believe, is a fundamental tenet of a truly holistic existence and an existence of well-being. So when I think about well-being, I think of taking care of your body, your mind, and your spirit or soul or whatever you want to call it. And one of the ways to take care of your soul beyond meditation or spiritual practice is just honoring the gifts and talents you have and indulging them on a regular basis. If you like to do art, make sure you do art on a regular basis. If you like to write, make sure you write on a regular basis. If you like to, help people that are in need, then do that on a regular basis. And so that is part of a holistic, balanced existence, and it's a fundamental piece of well-being. So with that, thank you for listening in to Chapter 3. I'll be back in a week or two when I get through Chapter 4 and share with you the next part of this book. And I hope you're enjoying your reading of The Business Casual Yogi. Thank you.